am having, Mac.
When you think about Shadow the Hedgehog, what do you think about? I feel like there's a lot of answers that you can pick from, but generally all of them kind of have to deal with the same concept. Shadow is this dark, maybe even edgy character of lately that pretty much is disconnected from all the other characters, and sometimes he's labeled as having no friends. For me, growing up, Shadow the Hedgehog was kind of like the Batman of Sonic characters. He was the one that was pretty much quiet and all business, and if he had something to say to you, you were likely going to get a beating. Anyway, I hear from an insider source the best way not to get a beating from Shadow the Hedgehog is if you like and subscribe on this video, that way he won't come after you. That said, knowing Shadow the Hedgehog's origin story, you kinda understand why he is the way he is. This is a character who's pretty much a product of his environment. Okay, so here's what I'm going to ask you to do. For the next 5 to 10 seconds, I want you to get that mental image you have of Shadow the Hedgehog. What do you see Shadow as? And just think about that character. Here's some images that might help you out. Okay, you got that image in your head? Cool, sweet. Now, look at this picture. Yeah, it's weird. You see, what makes this so strange is that this is not the Shadow we know. And I don't know why, but I find it oddly intriguing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the time Shadow the Hedgehog laughed. Something we never really see in this series, unless it's done when he's making fun of other people. But in this instance, Shadow just laughs because he's enjoying himself. How strange. This iteration of Shadow comes from the manga known as Dash and Spin Super Fast Sonic, specifically from Volume 2, Issue 17, and also 18. So, I think there's several reasons why this Shadow the Hedgehog was made different than the one that we know, and there's also several reasons why I think I find it so fascinating. But firstly, let's talk about why it's different. So, this is a manga series, and if you don't know already about this series, it's mainly for comedic intensive purposes. There really is not an underlying plot in each of these stories, and all of the characters are distorted to some extent, some more than others, especially when it comes to Shadow the Hedgehog. Of course, all of the characters keep their main core aspects together, like Sonic is still the fast character, he's still the leader, Tails is the sidekick and still very supportive, Eggman is still the main antagonist and the guy Sonic is always beating. But Shadow, I think there's only a few things that really stay true to his actual in-game character. And firstly, he still calls himself the ultimate life form and he still has that arrogance about him. However, this iteration of Shadow is a narcissist to the highest degree. As Eggman begins to compliment him, Shadow asks for a continuation, as if he's suggesting that Eggman should continue to praise him, and he's leaving out information about what makes him so great. That said, I feel like the biggest change in character in this manga is Shadow's overall role, and I think that's ultimately due to the effects of this being a comedic series. Shadow in this series is a goofball delinquent. This is a character who loves competition, loves to have fun, and also knows how to stick it to the man. In chapter 17, Eggman has this obsession with Shadow. He thinks he's the coolest thing ever, so he pretty much does everything in his power to be kind of like him, and even calls him bro repeatedly. Eggman forces Shadow to compete against Sonic in many different challenges, and Shadow actually admits defeat a couple times to Sonic and says, "Sonic, no kidding, you're really good," with a big ol' smile on his face, making Sonic mildly uncomfortable. At the beginning of the chapter, you can see just how much Eggman is inspired by Shadow as he begins riding a motorcycle into the panel. But by the end, you can see Eggman is totally fed up with Shadow's attitude and challenges the two of them, Sonic and Shadow, to a fight, to which Shadow happily agrees to. At the very end of the chapter, Sonic and Shadow beat up Eggman and they become friends, and Amy even says, "Who's that? He's so cool," with a heart. There's a lot going on here, guys, and it continues even more in chapter 18. In chapter 18, Eggman's in a disguise and tries to make a movie based off of Sonic trying to ruin his image, and Sonic wants to change this and make an actual good movie. So there's a recast, and they want to cast a lead, and Shadow volunteers that he will be the lead. After some grueling auditions, Eggman just decides that he wasted everyone's time and he's gonna be the lead, which pisses off everyone involved, especially Sonic and Shadow, and they devise a plan to make a horror movie about Eggman. Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, and Shadow work together and create this horror movie, scaring the absolute dickens out of Eggman. And by the end, all of them are watching it together, and Shadow's sharing a nice laugh with Sonic and the gang. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the time that Shadow the Hedgehog laughed, and we may never see it again. But what are your thoughts? Do you think that we should see this side of Shadow more often, or do you think what we have in the games is probably better as is? Let me hear what you guys have to say in the comment section down below. But anyway, this is your boy SONICSTA signing out. Have a super blessed day, y'all.
Why are you playing that trash?